All right, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you had a wonderful day. We got the CPI tomorrow morning, 1 hour before the bell. And after the way things played out today, the tensions are still high and the expectations for tomorrow are huge. The market's still pricing in 1%. You have some banks like JP Morgan thinking that it could be a 2% event if we get a hot print. And now, after all of the other CPI datas have barely moved, a lot of the past worries are reemerging. So tomorrow has a lot in store. Thank goodness we get all of that data before the bell. You don't have much waiting, and then best of all is followed up by a bunch of other data this week. So Chad, we got a lot to talk about. I got a mini preview for you. Hopefully it is very short and sweet. I have my idea of what I think is going to happen. I have a couple of plays and everything else we're looking at for tomorrow. So Chad, what I need from you, a thumbs up on the video. Make sure you're subscribed. And if you don't know, we are live Monday through Friday, 30 minutes before open, youtube.com/the stock market. We will see you there in the morning, baby. Run it.
Working to the couch, it's the 2020 election. Live in the hills, but I still get a spread. Started with a live, but I still reinvest it. Feel how I feel, then it feel like a blessing. I just want the lesson, I just want protection. I'm up and I'm down, but they sound like progression. Farmer never plans if he waits for perfection. Finger to the down.
All right, off the bat, you should already know what tomorrow's CPI means for the market. But the thing that you need to know is that tomorrow's CPI is the first of two ahead of the June meeting. Why that's so important? Everybody is talking about June rate cuts. This will be one of the final sets of inflation data ahead of that, and this is where people are honing in and getting an idea where today could be or tomorrow could end up being so important. So that's one thing you got to keep in mind. Other than that, tomorrow is very simple in terms of expectations. Core is expected to come down by 0.1 and headline is expected to go up by 0.1. It is not expected to be that much, but I have to remind you, don't forget how this chart looks. Remember all of the fears of the last couple of months. Last CPI, we finally got a tick down in core, and that was well received, but there was a couple of other factors that didn't make it the best thing ever. But in general, core has been sticky here near the lows, and this is where people are worried because, yeah, last time it did come down, or expecting it to come down at 3.7, and if that does come in line, that would be very good, simply because that narrative of inflation dropping, that would actually be continuing. But some people are worried it could just as quickly go a little bit higher, and before you know it, we really haven't made much progress, and you haven't moved much in the last 6 months. So that's something you got to keep in mind. The other thing, if it does come in line on the core, I do believe that would be the slowest pace of core inflation since April of 2021. So not too bad. We'll see where this factors in, and hopefully you get some of the main points, and I guess, or you could infer some of the main points in what's expected. And now we'll just talk about the composition of the data, but one with headline expected to come up and core expected to come down, with energy prices and oil being up and having been up, this is where you could kind of assume that. But as far as everything else, the thing about tomorrow, usually the previews, we have a lot that we could take out of it, but in this case, the data, there's not anything special. The airlines are expected to cool down a little bit as before. There's mixed views on lodging and auto. I think used cars are expected to continue their decline from before. Same thing with apparel, and then auto insurance is going to stay high, but nothing that we haven't seen in the past. And then even rents will stay elevated too. The thing about tomorrow, the impact is just heightened because it's leading into the data, and then now the Fed futures and the bonds, we're at that 4.5%. We're pricing in even less, and just the fact of the matter is, It's April. You're running out of time. If anything does not support X amount of rate cuts, we're not going to have that much time left. And after this data event, you're going to be looking at one more CPI, and then that's it. If it shows what this one shows and they both come in hot, your June, July cuts, I mean, we are going to be talking a lot of different things. So the impact is going to be big tomorrow. The data isn't supposed to move much, and that's why if we get anything that surprises us and really changes the story, or we just find out that core hasn't moved in the last 6 months, or even worse, goes higher, that's where people like JP Morgan are saying it's going to be a bad day tomorrow. They think we could go down as much as 2%, have a repeat of last August through October where rates go through 4 or 5, everybody starts readjusting, and then we got to kind of reset as inflation is still staying elevated. Now, the only way that really happens is if we get something new to this story tomorrow. So like I'm saying, with all of this, if none of the data is really expected to change, we really shouldn't get any of that. But if tomorrow's going to throw us a curveball, add something to the story, and then all of the narrative starts shifting, then we may get a new outline leading into June, but I'm sure the market's going to want to stay patient. So watch out for that. The final thing, what I expect tomorrow, I think headline's going to come in hot. A lot of the energy pressures there. Surprisingly, last time I thought this, I think headline came in cooler and then core ran up. So there's still a very big delay on a lot of this CPI data, so I would keep that in mind. I want to say that core is going to come in hot too, but generally there is a huge chorus, and even if you look at the data, there really hasn't been much that changed since last month. The only thing that has really changed, and one of the biggest divergences right now, it is commodities. All of the commodities and the commodity indexes, oil, gold, silver, anything you could think of, I think except for like wheat and corn, but they've gotten a little bit of a bid. They are all going up, and that should kind of follow with some of that headline inflation, but we haven't really seen it too much. So we'll find out what happens, but I do think we are still just in this precarious mode of, last time the story continued down, and this was well received, but remember, we spent like 4, 5, 6 months. It's like, what's going to happen? Is that for us? It didn't move much, and unfortunately, it's so sticky, and we're right at this zone. It's like one little bounce back up. I mean, everything could change here, but for now, as long as this chart keeps going down, don't underestimate how happy that makes the market, and that's something we talked about. I really would not be surprised if hot data gets you moving even on the high side tomorrow, as long as inflation comes down. And that's really what I have here. I think we may play out like the last sets of data. Regardless of the CPI, regardless of the hot jobs report, you have literally watched the market keep going. It has even ignored the bond market as well. So unless the data brings up something new about inflation, rent surge, or something emerges, more indexes and groups show above 5, 6% inflation, and we're like, wow, it's so hot, and it adds a new element to the story and gets you responding to that, then this general golden path of, well, we're still cutting rates, then I think tomorrow could go both ways, but I'm more or less settling on we move within 1%, and then I do think the dollar will be one of the bigger factors to watch. But all in all, I think tomorrow is important. I do think there's a parachute, and what I mean by that is before you know it, regardless of whatever it gives us, if it's really good or really bad, it's going to get watered down by the fact there's going to be one more, then we get the follow-up data, and then you're even going to get a little bit of earnings in the morning. So Chad, I'll see you there in the morning. Any questions, we will have it all live. I'll give you all of these updates, and usually within the first hour, you'll have the general idea. But don't forget, too, sometimes the market will move insane, and you'll be asking yourself, is this because the data? Is this because the data? But we'll find out tomorrow morning. But now, let us get into the plays. So, right off the bat, I got 3 different plays for tomorrow. I only have one related to the data and the CPI, and I'm sure most of you could guess what that is, but I'm not starting with that. I'm going to start with play number 1, Intel. We got this news, and we got it early today, but surprisingly, it did not move the stock that much. Intel, they announced their new AI. What was it called? Gaudi 3. It's this new AI thing. They said it competes with NVIDIA's H100. B100, even though NVIDIA has already released a new B100, or that's the one they said they're working on, but it's a new AI chip. It was the first set of good news for Intel in the while, considering just a couple of days ago they were guiding down on the foundries and got killed, but it created a little pop in the stock and then kind of faded or just only moved about 1%. And I really think it was watered down because of the volatility here. So we'll see how this one plays out. You got that Marvel event coming up. I'm going to keep my eyes on this. I just didn't like how the premiums on the options got a bid, but Intel's trading at one of the lower prices of even its last couple of earnings. Still has a premium over the last like 12 months, but it's came down significantly since their last earnings, and they report kind of early for one of the chips, as in they're in a few weeks here, I think like April 23rd. So watch out for them. Keep your eyes out if there's any sort of follow-up, and especially if the data is good and everybody feels good and optimistic tomorrow. But that is play number one. Then play number two. We got to start with earnings, man. We can't leave it out. I did actually make a play on this one today. We went over the earnings preview. You will start getting a lot of those on stream. It's like we never stopped, baby. But Delta, they're the first earnings for earnings season tomorrow. You could say a couple of things about the consumer, but it's definitely going to set off a wave in all of the travel stocks, from airlines to even Uber and all of that, depending on what sort of guidance Delta gives, and the fact that lodging and airline costs are already a big segment of the CPI. They're not expected to change trends much, so we'll see if the earnings deviates from that trend. I think everything about tomorrow is going to kind of revolve around Delta or the industry in a way, so we'll see how that plays out. Watch out for any post-earnings. As far as the play that I made, I only spent $15. I went with the 2 standard deviations. We calculated it. They were only pricing in about 5%, so I think it was only a 10% move, but this time I only went with a put. The stock was already up there. I think we made money on the calls last time. Grab one put, 41.50 for 15 cents. We'll see what it does tomorrow, but at the very least, I could use this as a place marker to see if there is any continuations. Don't forget, baby, that's always a fun part of earnings, but that is play number 2. Watch out for that. And then play number 3. Here's your play, baby. Gold. This is the one for tomorrow, and I am looking to get out of my short. I'm still in it. I got merked on it a little bit today, then it just came back. Still down only 1,000. I was up even like 1,000 or 2,000 at one point, so it's been fluctuating about 1% total since I've made the play. I'm looking to get out of it, but the way I'm looking at tomorrow, if we do get a hot CPI, I think it's going to lead to a stronger dollar, and then that could weaken gold. But then again, I'm saying let's see if that holds up, because technically, I've seen gold ignore a lot of things in the last 10 days. It's literally up 8 out of the last 10 days, moving at an epic pace. So we'll find out, but I do think gold has a lot riding on it. Rate cuts, the way it's been moving and how people are feeling. I think this one is going to get a lot of attention, and it was the one that everyone forgot about on these data events, but now I think might be the most important one tomorrow, and then besides the dollar. So we'll see how that plays out, but those are the main plays. As far as everything else, I didn't make any other plays. I got like a $4 option that I didn't think I was going to get filled on Boeing. It went up to like 8 cents or something like that. Other than that, riding out those Marvels, we had a couple of plays move, still in the Gildan and all of that, but we'll see what tomorrow brings. Hopefully, gold and bonds get a bigger move there, but if we could get some answers, it'll be nice. Otherwise, worst case scenario, like I said, man, you're going to be quickly punting into earnings, then focused on PPI in the minutes tomorrow. That'll be a big part about tomorrow, man. Don't forget about that. I told you about that one yesterday, so watch out for that. But other than that, should be very straightforward. I'll see you on the data, but that is your watch list, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure Hydrate Healthy ready to go. Make sure post your watch list. Make sure we see you there in the morning. I need the armor on. I need the helmet shining, and I need you to remember, you got to use your imagination to invent, not wishful think, not use it to work against you, but to invent and create, baby. So stay in the game. Drink that water. Stay hydrated and healthy. All that good stuff. I'll see you in the AM early. We'll be there early, and or not.